What's up, guys? I hope you're doing well. This is the second episode of the deck check, and I was just looking for a nice office where I could produce the rest of the video, and I think I found it. So deck check episode number 2 is on its way. Let's see who's gonna be this week's winner. So first of all, guys, thank you all for your participation in the deck check. We had a huge amount of submissions this week, and filtering out the 3 best of them was quite difficult, but I think that Flo, Marcel and Jean-Pierre did the best decks, and we have a Warlock here, we have a Rogue, and the holy shit Paladin. Let's get started with Flo's Corrupt Renounce Warlock. That's just the name that I gave the deck because it plays with double Corruption and double Corrupting Mist. Also double Renounce, so that's why I chose the name, but the main strategy actually is to go for a Barnes on turn 4 and just grab that Ishari out of your deck and yeah, go all the way with a 3-4, a 1-1 and a 10-10. If that goes wrong or you have to make any changes to your playstyle, there's always Renounce Darkness to save your ass. If you are already going for it in the early game, it can still work out, and there's a lot of funny potential with Renounce Darkness, as it's just one of the most RNG cards, or even the most RNG card in the game. As for the ranking, I think that something like this might suit the Warlock. So in terms of creativity, I'd go for all 3 faces, as the Warlock is just one of the most creative decks I've ever seen. The synergy with Barnes and Ishari is working out quite well. Also, you're having just a great time with Renounce Darkness. In terms of consistency, I would only go for 1 phase here, because even though the deck is working most of the time, sometimes you have hands where you don't have Barnes or Renounce Darkness, and sometimes you even lose a game even though you dropped Barnes on turn 4, and that just doesn't feel consistent enough to me. But I could also argue that you could give 2 points here, but definitely not all 3 phases. Yeah, fun. There's definitely a fun part to this deck. It's a lot of fun to play it, so you should try it out. Big play potential. The biggest play you can make is Barnes into Ishari. And the special point also delivered to this deck, so this is gonna be the first time that I will give out the special phase, as this deck to me was really something, yeah, just that's what it's all about. This is exactly the kind of deck that I want to see in the deck check. Next up is Marcels Rope, and this deck is easily explained, as most of you guys might probably already know it. You just steal your opponent's card and then you beat him with his own weapons. That works out quite well most of the time, and even when I went up against another rogue and I had 3 ethereal peddlers in my hand, I still managed to grab a victory, so this deck is a really strong one and a lot of fun to play. In terms of the ranking for the Rogue, I think 1 point in terms of creativity is deserved, but nothing more, as this deck is heavily relating to the meta decks. We have seen Rogues running around with Hallucinations, Swashbucklers and Shaku, so that is not that new. It just pushes all these decks to the limit. We're going to the limit with all the steal effects, and that's why I'm gonna give 1 point for creativity. And in terms of consistency, I'm gonna give out 2 phases, as this deck is working really strong. You can even play it on ladder. If you don't want to reach legend, you might even be able to reach legend, just as I think of it. But yeah, around rank 5, it's still working properly. So 2 phases in terms of consistency. For the big play potential, it's definitely possible. If you steal something big, you can always go for it. And it's a lot of fun just to play with your opponent's cards. So also here, a phase granted. Leaves us with only the Paladin left to check, and I really find the idea behind this deck very interesting, as you're going for a very early aggressive approach, but you're still playing a card like Forbidden Healing. So I've learned through the games that I've tested the holy shit Paladin, I've learned that the Forbidden Healing is for the matchup against Pirate Warrior or other super aggressive decks that you're facing. It's also good to see Light's Justice being built in a deck, and the strategy overall is keep up the pressure in the early game. Then on turn 6 or even on turn 5 with the coin you can drop Hammett and then hopefully go into the Holy Wrath Molten Giant combination and deal 25 damage. Straight to the face and pray. Now this is the final moment, as 7 faces went to the Warlock submitted by Flo and 5 faces to Marcels Rope. What is it gonna be for this Paladin? For the creativity of this idea I will give out 2 faces. In terms of consistency I got to explain something, because you might imagine that this deck might work pretty well just by looking at the list. But the early game is not as strong as expected, and the late game, that's what matters the most, with the Holy Wrath, Hammett, the Sea Giants and the Molten Giants. Sometimes it's just not working. If you don't draw Hammett, it's all over. But even if you draw Hammett and you have the Holy Wraths and the Sea Giants left in your deck, and also the Molten Giants, sometimes you just don't get the Holy Wrath. Then you have a moment where you get a Holy Wrath, you play it and just draw the next Holy Wrath. So I feel like this deck is not as consistent as you might expect from the list. But still, it's definitely fun to try this deck out, so if you have some spare time, just go into the ladder, check it out. Also, the big play potential is happening sometimes. As I've just shown, you can draw into the Holy Wrath and then go for a 25 damage Molten Giant. That's just crazy. Alright, that wraps it up. We have a winner with 7 faces. It's gonna be Flo and his Warlock. A great submission. Thank you all for participating in this week's deck check, but it's not the end of the world. If you want to get another chance on winning the deck check, you can do so by just submitting your deck for next week to marvin@elcgaming.com. And also, thank you guys for watching the video. Thank you for checking it out. I hope you like it. Leave me some feedback in the comments, and see you guys next week.